Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have used this old bedsheet to create an infinity dress. These dresses are always popular and are great for many different occasions as they can be styled in so many ways, which I'll be showing you at the end of this video. This dress was so easy to make and is definitely beginner friendly. So let's get into it. First, I laid out my bedsheet and removed all the elastic from the edges. I used a seam ripper to do this, but you could always use scissors instead and just cut it off. Once I'd removed all the elastic, I ironed the fabric to get rid of the creases the elastic had caused. I started working on the skirt piece of the dress first. To make this, I needed to take two measurements. My waist measurement, which is 30 inches, and how long I wanted my dress to be from my waist. I wanted mine to be 40 inches, but I added an inch for seam allowance, so my measurement was 41 inches. Taking my piece of fabric, I folded this in half, right sides together. From the folded edge, I measured 30 inches across and marked this. Then, from the top edge, I marked 41 inches down and marked this. I then connected these points with a straight line and cut along the line I had just drawn. Once the fabric was unfolded, it was 41 inches long and 60 inches wide. This would allow me to add elastic to the waist for a nicer fit, while also giving the skirt of the dress a fuller and flowy look. I then folded the fabric in half again, right sides together, and pinned along the long open edge. I then sewed where I'd pinned with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. This will become the back seam of the dress. Once it was sewn, I cut off the excess fabric. I used pinking shears to do this to stop the fabric from fraying, but if you don't have pinking shears, you can cut closer to the stitches with regular scissors, then zigzag stitch over the edge of the fabric to stop it from fraying. This is how it looked. I then took the middle of each side so the seam I had just sewn was now on the back. Next, I needed to make the tunnel for the elastic to go through. I did this by folding the top edge of the fabric over 1/2 inch and pinning this in place. I did this all the way around the top of the skirt. Once I'd done this, I sewed where I'd pinned, making sure to leave enough space for the elastic to be fed through, and also making sure I left a small gap to feed the elastic into the skirt. This is how it looked. I then measured a piece of elastic around my waist and cut it to a length that felt a bit tight, but also comfortable. I could now feed the elastic through the tunnel I had made. I did this by attaching a safety pin to one end of the elastic and pinning the other end of the elastic to the skirt. This would stop the other end of the elastic being pulled through and lost in the tunnel. I then fed the elastic all the way around the top of the skirt. Once the elastic was fed all the way around, I overlapped the ends and sewed them together. This is how it looked. I then tucked this inside the tunnel and sewed the gap closed. Next, I needed to hem the bottom of the dress. I used a double hem for this. With the skirt piece inside out, I folded the edge over 1/4 inch and then folded it over 1/4 inch again and pinned this in place. This hemming method is good to use as it hides the raw edges of the fabric inside the hem and will stop the fabric from fraying. Once I'd done this all the way around the bottom edge, I sewed where I'd pinned. On to making the top of the dress, which is made from 2 ties. For this, I cut out 2 pieces of fabric that were 11.5 inches wide and 65 inches long. You can make these thinner or wider if you wanted to. You can also make these longer or shorter. Just make sure they are long enough to wrap around your waist and tie in the back. Next, I needed to hem all of the edges on these pieces. Again, I used a double hem for this to give the dress a neater and more professional look. Once I'd done this for all of the edges on both pieces, I sewed where I'd pinned. This is how it looked. I could now attach these pieces to the skirt piece of the dress. While wearing the skirt piece, I made sure the seam of the skirt was in the centre on the back, so the top pieces would be attached correctly. Taking one of the top pieces and making sure the right side of it was facing the right side of the skirt, I pinned one of the corners to the centre of the skirt piece. I then needed to attach the rest of this piece to the skirt. I did this by stretching the top of the skirt so the top edge was straight, and lined the top piece up with this and pinned it in place. I did this until I got to the end of the top piece. Once it was pinned in place and the elastic was relaxed again, it gave the top piece a pleated look and it was attached exactly where I wanted it to be. I then repeated this for the second piece on the other side, making sure the two pieces overlap slightly in the front. I removed the first pin and placed the corner of the second piece on top of the corner of the first piece and replaced the pin. I then repeated the process of the first piece. This is how it looked once both pieces were pinned on. I then sewed these pieces in place, making sure to stretch the elastic as I sewed so the top pieces will fit correctly. Once the top pieces were sewn on, the dress was complete, and this is how it looked. This is one of the many ways this dress can be worn, and because of this, it is perfect for almost any occasion and is like having multiple dresses in one. I'll leave you with 4 other ways this dress can be styled. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.